nobody and nothing will ever rule your mind. Machiavelli. They can chain your body. They can humiliate your name. They can even try to rewrite your story. But they will never rule your mind unless you let them. The greatest empire you will ever build is invisible, silent, and untouchable. It lives inside the space between your thoughts, the territory of your own consciousness. And that Machiavelli understood better than anyone. He saw that true power does not belong to kings, armies, or rulers. It belongs to the one who has mastered the art of directing his own mind. Because whoever governs their thoughts governs their destiny. Think about it. Every manipulation, every lie, every form of control in history, from politics to love, begins by capturing the human mind. The tyrant doesn't need your sword. He only needs your obedience. The manipulator doesn't need chains. He only needs your confusion. The crowd doesn't need your blood. It just needs your attention. And this, Machiavelli warned, is the first and most subtle war of all. The war for your inner freedom. When your mind is weak, the world becomes your master. When your mind is strong, you become the master of your world. Every emotion that controls you, every opinion that shapes you, every fear that limits you, all are forms of mental submission. You can live in a golden palace and still be a prisoner if you haven't conquered the invisible realm within. That's why the most powerful people in history were not those who ruled nations, but those who ruled themselves. This video is not about politics. It's about liberation. It's about learning how to walk through a world full of manipulation, envy, and control. The sources, without letting any of it rule your inner kingdom. Machiavelli didn't just study power. He dissected it. He understood that the mind is the throne of all influence. And if you protect that throne, nobody can dethrone you. In the next few minutes, we'll travel through the hidden strategies Machiavelli revealed, not to dominate others, but to become untouchable from within. You'll learn how to stop people from invading your peace, how to keep your emotions ungovernable, and how to build an inner fortress so strong that even betrayal, failure, or rejection cannot enter. But before we go further, I want you to write something in the comments. A declaration of your own power. Type these words: "My mind belongs to me." Let this be the beginning of your silent rebellion. Because this isn't just a lesson. It's a reclaiming, a remembering of what was always yours. Your mind is sacred. Your perception is your crown. And if you learn to guard them with awareness, no one, not the system, not the crowd, not your past, will ever rule you again. So stay until the end, because the truth we're about to uncover is not comfortable. But once you see it, you'll never bow to anyone again. When Niccolo Machiavelli wrote The Prince in the early 16th century, he wasn't simply offering a guide for rulers. He was dissecting human nature itself. Born in Florence during a time of chaos, when alliances shifted overnight, and loyalty was a currency that expired as quickly as it was given. Machiavelli learned one brutal truth. Power doesn't exist in the crown. It exists in the mind that dares to hold it. The Medici family ruled with deception, fear, and spectacle. Yet Machiavelli saw beyond their grandeur. He realized that even the most ruthless prince could only rule as long as people believed he could. The throne was psychological, not physical. Control begins in perception. But what most people never understood about Machiavelli is that his writings weren't meant only for rulers. They were meant for thinkers. He wasn't telling you to become cruel. He was warning you to become conscious. He believed that the human mind is constantly under siege by fear, by manipulation, by illusion. And those who don't study the mechanics of power inevitably become victims of it. His philosophy was never about corruption. It was about clarity, about seeing through the masks people wear when they speak of morality, but act from self-interest. About understanding that if you want to live freely, you must stop expecting purity from a world built on strategy. Centuries later, psychology confirmed what Machiavelli already intuited. The battlefield is within. Freud would call it the conflict between the id, ego, and superego. Jung would call it the shadow, the hidden self that manipulates us from the depths of our unconscious. Machiavelli simply called it human nature. He saw that the same instincts that drive kings also drive you. Fear of loss, desire for validation, hunger for control. And until you face these instincts within yourself, you remain manipulable by those who know how to exploit them. In our modern world, the battlefield has evolved, but the weapons haven't. Today, power doesn't come from armies or fortresses. It comes from narratives, from who controls attention, who shapes desire, who defines what's normal. Politicians, corporations, influencers all compete for one thing: your mental real estate. Every notification, every headline, every algorithmic suggestion is a psychological tactic designed to rule your emotions before you even notice. And Machiavelli would have recognized it instantly, because the essence of tyranny is not force, it's persuasion. That's why understanding Machiavelli today is more vital than ever. He teaches that awareness is the highest form of defense. Once you see the structure behind manipulation, you can never be ruled by it again. You stop reacting. You start observing. You reclaim the quiet authority that comes from seeing through illusion. This is the psychological liberation Machiavelli foresaw. A mind so sovereign that no ideology, no leader, no system can imprison it. And that's what we'll now explore: the hidden mechanisms of mental sovereignty. How to think independently, feel deeply, yet remain ungoverned, and move through a deceptive world with the calm precision of one who knows the game, but refuses to be its pawn. Power over the mind begins the moment you stop letting others decide what you should feel. That is where Machiavelli's true genius lies, not in manipulation, but in awareness. He understood that human beings are emotional creatures trying to survive through logic, pretending to be rational while being driven by hidden fears. To rule your mind is not to suppress your emotions, but to understand their origin. Every manipulation begins with an unexamined feeling. Every chain begins with an unchallenged thought. Machiavelli's first hidden principle is this: the one who defines reality controls it. When you allow others to define what is right, wrong, beautiful, or worthy, you surrender your internal compass. Throughout history, rulers controlled their people not through swords, but through stories. They decided what words meant, what virtues were celebrated, and what sins were unforgivable. In the modern world, this hasn't changed. Society defines success, failure, and happiness for you. And you spend your life chasing mirages that never belonged to your truth. The mind becomes colonized not by armies, but by ideas. To rule your mind, you must reclaim the right to define your own meanings. Ask yourself daily, who taught me to see the world this way? Every definition you inherit is a potential leash. Break them one by one. The second principle, do not seek validation. Command respect through silence. Machiavelli believed that the more a person needs to be liked, the weaker they become. Why? Because dependence on approval gives others the key to your emotions. The crowd becomes your ruler. The moment you act just to be accepted, you've lost your inner sovereignty. The strongest minds are not those who speak the loudest, but those who can remain silent while others demand reactions. Power is not in expression, it's in restraint. Silence creates mystique, and mystique creates control. The less they understand your mind, the less they can manipulate it. Practice holding your peace when the world screams for explanation. That's where power begins, in the invisible discipline of not reacting. The third principle, observe human nature without illusion. Machiavelli saw that most suffering comes from expecting purity in others. We get hurt not because people are cruel, but because we believed they wouldn't be. To rule your mind, you must stop being surprised by betrayal, jealousy, or selfishness. Expect imperfection in others and in yourself. The wise do not hate human flaws. They anticipate them and adapt. Emotional maturity means understanding that manipulation exists because weakness exists. And the only way to stop being manipulated is to stop needing anyone to behave ideally. Learn to navigate people as they are, not as you wish they were. The fourth principle, fear is the oldest tool of control. Learn to master it. Every form of domination, from empires to relationships, operates through fear. Fear of rejection, fear of loss, fear of being misunderstood. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler should be feared rather than loved. Not because fear is noble, but because it is predictable. Love fluctuates. Fear obeys. In the realm of your own mind, you must reverse that principle. Do not be ruled by fear, but learn from it. Observe what it tries to protect. Each fear reveals what you secretly worship. Fear of failure means you worship success. Fear of loneliness means you worship acceptance. Fear of judgment means you worship image. To rule your mind, dethrone your idols. The fifth principle, never let emotions decide strategy. Machiavelli warned rulers against acting in anger or pity, because emotions are temporary masters that ruin permanent plans. He advised patience, the ability to appear calm while calculating beneath the surface. In your own life, this means learning to pause before reacting. People who rule their emotions rule situations. The manipulator feeds on your haste. They provoke to extract impulsive responses. When you refuse to react, their power dissolves. Emotional control is not coldness, it's clarity. It's choosing response over reaction. When you control tempo, you control the game. Now pause for a moment. Ask yourself this question, and leave your answer in the comments. What emotion controls me the most? Be honest, because awareness is the first rebellion. The sixth principle, master perception. Not for deceit, but for protection. Machiavelli taught that appearance often outweighs truth in the game of power. In a world driven by perception, what people believe about you determines how they treat you. You can be intelligent, but if you appear uncertain, you'll be ignored. You can be kind, but if you appear desperate, you'll be exploited. Learning to present yourself with composure is not hypocrisy. It's self-defense. The mind that cannot shape its own image is shaped by others. Always project calm certainty, even when you doubt. Appear unshakable, and your environment will adjust to your stillness. The seventh principle: detach from outcomes, attach to mastery. The weak mind obsesses over results. The strong mind invests in control of process. Machiavelli admired those who could remain composed amidst uncertainty. He saw that chaos only destroys those who resist it. Detachment is not indifference, it's sovereignty. When you act from fear of losing, you've already lost. Focus not on winning every battle, but on never being broken by one. Freedom begins when your peace no longer depends on external events. The eighth principle: protect your solitude like a fortress. Machiavelli compared fortresses to inner strength. He warned rulers that physical fortresses could trap them, but inner fortresses of discipline and reflection would make them invincible. In the modern world, solitude is that fortress. Without solitude, your thoughts get diluted by the noise of others. Reflection is the space where manipulation dies. Spend time alone not as an escape, but as a counsel with your own mind. Ask yourself, am I living my thoughts or someone else's? The ninth principle: study betrayal without bitterness. Machiavelli knew that betrayal is not an accident. It is a consequence of ambition and fear. When people betray, they reveal their hierarchy of loyalty. A sovereign mind does not curse betrayal. It studies it. Each wound becomes a lesson in human motive. When you stop taking betrayal personally, you become untouchable. Forgiveness is not weakness. It's strategy. It removes emotional debt and restores clarity. The 10th principle: use observation as power. Machiavelli advised rulers to watch more than they speak, because knowledge of human patterns grants quiet authority. In modern terms, psychological observation means watching the motives behind words, the emotions behind actions, the fears behind aggression. The more you observe, the less you react. The observer cannot be ruled, because he sees the game unfolding before others even realize it exists. The 11th principle: maintain internal contrast. What does that mean? It means embracing paradox, being strong yet soft, ambitious yet calm, detached yet compassionate. Machiavelli admired the lion and the fox, strength and strategy. When you balance opposites, you become unpredictable, and unpredictability is the death of manipulation. Nobody can rule what they cannot predict. The 12th principle: build invisible discipline. The mind that looks free from outside but is chaotic within is a puppet of impulse. Machiavelli would say, discipline is freedom disguised as structure. Wake early. Control what you consume, not just food, but information, conversation, emotion. Every input shapes your perception. If you eat mental garbage, you'll think like the crowd. The sovereign mind curates its diet of ideas, of people, of energy. The 13th principle: remember that manipulation requires consent. No one can truly control you without your participation. The crowd obeys because it wants comfort. The manipulator thrives because we want belonging. Once you stop seeking comfort in control, manipulation loses meaning. You become what Machiavelli called a free spirit in a strategic world. The 14th principle: master the rhythm of distance. Machiavelli taught that a wise ruler must alternate between presence and withdrawal. Always being available weakens authority. The same applies to your personal power. When you distance yourself strategically from people, from noise, from overexposure, your value multiplies. Scarcity creates respect. Learn to disappear. Every absence teaches others your worth. The 15th principle: accept the cruelty of clarity. Seeing reality as it is will sometimes hurt, but that pain is purification. Machiavelli was despised because he refused to romanticize human behavior. The truth is uncomfortable, but it liberates. When you see through illusion, you lose innocence, but gain sovereignty. The price of inner freedom is the death of naive comfort. By now, you're beginning to sense what Machiavelli truly meant. Power isn't domination, it's discernment. It's the ability to navigate a deceptive world without losing your moral compass, yet without being devoured by it. But this is only the beginning. In the next part, we'll go even deeper, beyond strategies and into the paradoxes of control, freedom, and truth. Because to rule your mind completely, you must understand not only how power operates, but why you unconsciously give it away. True freedom begins when you stop negotiating with your own mind. Most people are not enslaved by others. They are enslaved by their own doubts, desires, and self-imposed narratives. Machiavelli knew that external rulers are powerless against a person who has mastered internal rule. The moment you no longer need others to validate your path, no king, no enemy, no critic can command you. That is why he observed that the greatest rulers were often misunderstood, feared, or even hated, because their independence of thought was a direct threat to collective illusion. When you think freely, you expose the blindness of the crowd, and the crowd rarely forgives that. Let us go deeper now into the hidden architecture of mental sovereignty, the first deep law of freedom. Self-awareness is a weapon. In a world where most people move automatically, without questioning their emotions or intentions, the one who sees himself clearly is untouchable. Machiavelli's philosophy was rooted in observation, not only of others, but of oneself. To study your own motives, to dissect your own shadows, to ask why you crave what you crave. That is the beginning of internal rule. You cannot protect what you do not understand. The manipulator studies you. Do you study yourself? He would say, the wise man governs himself as a state, with strategy, with vigilance, with a council of reason. Every impulse is like a citizen. Some serve peace, others rebellion. Learn to listen, but not to obey all voices. Direct them, command them. Be your own ruler. The second deep law. Emotional detachment is not indifference. It is clarity. To detach is to create space between stimulus and response, between offense and reaction. When someone insults you, you can choose to see their words as an attack or as a mirror. When life disappoints you, you can collapse into despair or extract wisdom. The difference lies in your ability to pause. Machiavelli admired those who remained calm in chaos, because calmness confuses the manipulator. A person who cannot provoke you cannot control you. Detachment is not emotional numbness, it's emotional mastery. The third deep law. Every human seeks power, but only the conscious deserve it. Machiavelli didn't demonize the pursuit of power. He exposed its universality. Everyone desires influence, whether through love, wealth, knowledge, or approval. The difference lies in how one pursues it. The unconscious seek power to fill their emptiness. The conscious seek power to protect their peace. You must ask yourself, why do I want control? If your reason is rooted in insecurity, you will become the very tyrant you fear. If it is rooted in purpose, your influence will liberate, not dominate. The fourth deep law. Beware of flattery. Ish, diash. It is the most dangerous poison to the mind. Machiavelli warned that rulers who surround themselves with flatterers become blind. Praise corrupts faster than criticism, because it seduces your ego into believing you are complete. The moment you stop questioning yourself, your mind begins to decay. Seek truth-tellers, not admirers. Value silence over applause. Remember, every compliment has a motive. Those who wish to control you will first make you feel special. Resist the drug of validation. It's sweeter than power and twice as addictive. The fifth deep law. Discipline is the true luxury. In Machiavelli's era, luxury was gold and comfort. Today, it's freedom from distraction. The disciplined mind is a rarity because modern life rewards noise. Every second, something demands your attention. Notifications, opinions, temptations. The weak mind says yes to everything and wonders why it's exhausted. The sovereign mind practices sacred refusal. It chooses what deserves focus. Discipline is the art of saying no to everything that weakens your inner authority. Now pause for a moment. Reflect and write in the comments, "My peace is my discipline." Because once you make peace your priority, manipulation loses its grip. The sixth deep law. Never explain your vision to the blind. Machiavelli saw that visionaries are often destroyed not by enemies, but by those too limited to understand them. The moment you share your deepest purpose with people who live in fear, they will try to shrink it. The mind that rules itself learns the sacred art of secrecy. Protect your dreams from premature judgment. Speak less, move silently. Let your results become your announcement. The seventh deep law. Use failure as refinement, not as verdict. Machiavelli observed that fortune favors the one who adapts. Life will betray your plans, not to punish you, but to test your flexibility. The weak mind personalizes loss. The strong mind studies it. Each failure reveals a weakness in your system, emotional, strategic, or psychological. Instead of despair, cultivate curiosity. Ask, what is this teaching me about my control? Failure is not the opposite of mastery. It is its furnace. The eighth deep law. Resistance builds sovereignty. When everything goes your way, your mind sleeps. It's adversity that wakes you up. Machiavelli believed that hardship creates sharper rulers, because it teaches caution, patience, and foresight. When life opposes you, do not complain. Analyze. Every obstacle strengthens your inner command center. Remember, storms are training grounds for kings. The ninth deep law. The crowd fears the thinker who cannot be predicted. Predictability is vulnerability. The manipulator studies your patterns, your reactions, your words, your fears. The moment you become readable, you become controllable. Machiavelli advised princes to act unpredictably to keep rivals off balance. In your life, this means cultivating a private rhythm. Change your routines. Refuse to react the same way twice. Surprise the world with your silence, your strength, your serenity. The sovereign mind is never fully known, and that is why it cannot be ruled. The 10th deep law. The mind mirrors what it feeds on. What you read, watch, and listen to shapes your perception of reality. Machiavelli would say, "Garbage in, confusion out." The manipulator doesn't need to lie to you directly. They just need to control what you consume. Guard your attention as a monk guards his prayer. Every minute of focus you waste on the trivial is a coin spent funding your own confusion. Choose your influences wisely. They are the architects of your inner kingdom. The 11th deep law. Humility is camouflage for strength. Machiavelli admired those who appeared modest, but thought strategically. Humility disarms threats. Arrogance attracts them. In the art of mental sovereignty, humility is invisibility. It lets you move unnoticed, observing the landscape without being targeted by egos seeking competition. Never flaunt your wisdom. Let others underestimate you. That is your shield. The 12th deep law. Learn to redirect pain into power. Every wound contains energy. Most people waste it on resentment. Machiavelli would say, "Pain is proof that you are alive, alert, and capable of transformation. Don't seek to erase it. Channel it. Turn rejection into self-refinement. Turn loneliness into self-mastery. The sovereign mind knows how to alchemize suffering into strength." The 13th deep law. Watch what people fear. It reveals what they serve. Machiavelli analyzed the human soul through fear. He wrote that men are driven more by fear of loss than by hope of gain. Observe those around you. What they fear will tell you their secret desires. In yourself, this awareness is gold. Once you know what you fear, you can no longer be ruled by it. You can face it, dissect it, and walk through it as if it were fog. Fear loses substance when studied under the light of awareness. The 14th deep law. Neutrality is not weakness. It is power reserved. In arguments, conflicts, or politics, the one who can stay neutral gains perspective. Machiavelli knew that taking sides too quickly exposes your position. The ruler who waits to see all angles before acting controls the tempo of events. In your mind, neutrality means observing emotions without immediate labeling. Not calling sadness bad or anger wrong, but letting them unfold without control. True neutrality grants insight. The 15th deep law. You cannot rule what you refuse to face. The human mind hides from its darker tendencies, envy, lust, pride, cruelty. Yet those shadows manipulate us the most. Machiavelli faced human nature without flinching. To him, the refusal to acknowledge our darkness was the root of all hypocrisy. Face your inner tyrant, your manipulator, your victim. Integrate them, rule them. The moment you accept your shadow, no one else can weaponize it against you. Machiavelli's message was never a call to corruption. It was a call to lucidity. He taught that the mind must be both mirror and sword, reflecting reality as it is and cutting through illusion when needed. The one who rules their mind does not live in denial. They see both beauty and cruelty as parts of the same world and remain unbroken. So remember these truths. Awareness disarms deception. Detachment silences manipulation. Discipline builds fortitude, and humility hides strength. Together, they form the invisible empire of mental sovereignty. And before we enter the next part, take a moment to breathe. Look at your life. Every person, every system, every belief that tries to control you. Ask yourself, am I ruled by them or by my own consciousness? If your answer is unclear, stay with me, because in the next section, you'll learn how to translate all this philosophy into practical mastery. The daily art of ruling your thoughts, emotions, and energy with Machiavellian precision. Power over your mind is not a theory. It is a discipline, a living practice that must be exercised daily, just like a muscle. Machiavelli understood that even the most brilliant insight fades without action. He wrote for those willing to act strategically, not just think beautifully. In this part, you'll learn how to take his timeless principles and turn them into modern rituals. Ways to live as an inner ruler rather than a psychological subject of your environment. Because freedom, no matter how philosophical, must eventually become a habit. Let's begin with the foundation. Machiavelli believed that every ruler must know the terrain of his kingdom. For you, that kingdom is your mind. So, your first task is mapping your internal landscape. Set aside time every morning, before the noise of the world enters, to observe what is happening within you. Don't meditate to feel good. Meditate to see clearly. What emotion dominates your morning? What thought repeats itself? Awareness is the first act of defense. Write down your patterns. Document them like a strategist studying enemy movements. When you know the roads of your own mind, manipulation can never surprise you. The second practice. Reclaim the narrative of your thoughts. The world feeds you stories about who you are, what you should desire, what success looks like. You repeat them so often that they become your truth. Stop that. From now on, treat every thought like a messenger. Some are spies sent by fear or conditioning. Ask each thought, who sent you? Are you here to free me or chain me? If the thought weakens your energy, reject it. Replace it with a command of your own making. I decide what I believe. Do this consciously, especially in moments of doubt. Over time, your brain will obey your words more than the world's noise. That's how rulers reprogram their reality. The third practice, the ritual of silence. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler's silence was his greatest shield. In your daily life, use silence as a strategic weapon. When provoked, do not respond immediately. When criticized, do not explain yourself. When tempted to overshare, stop. Let silence create space for the truth to reveal itself. People who rush to fill silence often expose their insecurity. But those who master quiet, in speech, in emotion, in digital noise, command respect. Train yourself to enjoy the absence of noise. It is in silence that clarity sharpens its blade. The fourth practice, emotional transmutation. Every time anger arises, most people either suppress it or explode. Both reactions lead to loss of power. Machiavelli would advise a third path. Convert emotion into strategy. The next time someone disrespects you, don't seek revenge. Analyze why it disturbed you. What weakness did it touch? Then turn that energy inward. Use the insult as fuel to refine your composure, to sharpen your resolve, to act more deliberately. That is the alchemy of power, transforming reactive energy into calm dominance. The fifth practice, observation without attachment. In politics, Machiavelli warned that rulers who react emotionally to events lose perspective. The same is true for you. When something unpleasant happens, resist the urge to label it as good or bad. Instead, observe it as data. Ask, what is this situation teaching me about myself? Every conflict is a mirror. Every betrayal, a message. Those who observe life through neutrality evolve faster than those who judge. Because judgment traps you in ego. Observation frees you into wisdom. Pause here for a moment and comment. I observe. I do not react. This declaration rewires your consciousness. It reminds you that no event has meaning until your mind assigns it one, and you are the sole author of that meaning. The sixth practice, emotional fasting. Just as the body needs detox, the mind does too. Choose one day a week to withdraw from stimulation. No news, no social media, no unnecessary conversations. Silence your digital world. During this fast, your mind will rebel. It will crave distraction, like an addict craving its drug. But endure it. In that discomfort lies freedom. When you stop feeding on noise, you rediscover your natural intelligence. The quiet wisdom that cannot be manipulated by trends. The seventh practice, guard your attention like sacred currency. Machiavelli said that a wise ruler spends resources only where they multiply strength. Today, your most valuable resource is attention. Every scroll, every click, every argument online is an investment of energy. Ask yourself before engaging, does this increase or decrease my power? Choose inputs that elevate your thinking. Read ancient texts, study philosophy, listen to people who challenge your assumptions. Each conscious choice builds a fortress of discernment. The eighth practice, strategic detachment in relationships. Machiavelli advised princes to keep allies close, but emotions under control. Apply this to your interactions. Care deeply, but not dependently. Don't let affection blind you to patterns. Detachment does not mean coldness. It means freedom from emotional blackmail. When you love without clinging, you can see clearly who stands beside you out of loyalty and who stays out of convenience. Remember, power without compassion is tyranny, but compassion without boundaries is self-betrayal. The ninth practice, become the mirror of others' motives. Machiavelli believed that understanding people's intentions was more important than trusting their words. In every conversation, observe what the other person truly seeks. Validation, attention, dominance, or peace. Respond according to their need, not your emotion. This skill makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability confuses manipulation. You become a mirror that reflects others' nature back to them. Calmly, silently, effectively. The 10th practice, inner command through ritual discipline. The mind respects repetition. That's why rulers repeat ceremonies. They anchor authority in rhythm. Create your own mental ceremonies. A morning ritual of gratitude and clarity. An evening ritual of reflection and detachment. Begin the day with the thought, my mind is mine. End the day with, nothing owns me. Repetition engraves sovereignty into your subconscious. Over time, your internal reactions will align with your new command structure. Steady, deliberate, unbreakable. The 11th practice. Embrace solitude as power training. In solitude, you learn to hear your own voice without interference. Spend at least an hour a day without input. No music, no words, no screens. Just stillness. At first, solitude will feel uncomfortable, even threatening. That's the ego resisting loss of distraction. But push through. The ruler of the mind must learn to be at peace in the empty hall of his own thoughts. Solitude is not loneliness. It's sovereignty in its purest form. The 12th practice. Use self-reflection as strategy. Machiavelli taught rulers to review their actions constantly, identifying what strengthened or weakened their authority. Do the same mentally. At the end of each day, ask, What did I allow to control me today? Then adjust. This is psychological governance. Self-reflection transforms mistakes into military intelligence for your inner war. The 13th practice. Practice delayed response. When you receive criticism, attack, or temptation, train yourself to wait. Even a pause of 3 breaths creates distance between you and chaos. Time reveals motives. Most manipulation dies in silence. The ability to wait is the rarest form of power in an impatient world. The 14th practice. Train your posture of presence. Machiavelli knew that rulers communicate authority through presence before words. In your daily life, this translates to body language. Calm breath, steady eyes, composed gestures. The body is the vessel of the mind. Discipline it, and your thoughts follow. When your body moves with intention, people subconsciously sense your strength. Presence is silent command. The 15th practice. Maintain dual vision. Idealism and realism. Machiavelli believed that the wise must dream like philosophers, but act like soldiers. This means never losing hope in humanity, but never expecting perfection from it either. Stay compassionate, but not naive. Believe in virtue, but prepare for deceit. This balance keeps your mind both open and armored. The 16th practice. Transform information into insight. Knowledge alone is noise unless digested through reflection. After reading or hearing something new, ask yourself, how does this change the way I see the world? Insight is the digestion of truth. It becomes part of you, not just decoration for your intellect. The sovereign mind doesn't collect ideas. It integrates them into wisdom. The 17th practice. Make discomfort your ally. Machiavelli noted that people weaken when they grow too comfortable. Comfort breeds compliance. To rule your mind, seek discomfort intentionally. Cold showers, public speaking, fasting, new challenges. Each discomfort expands your threshold of control. The one who trains in discomfort remains composed when others panic. The 18th practice. The art of controlled emotion. Imagine your emotions as ministers in your inner court. Anger is the general. Joy is the artist. Fear is the guardian. Each has value, but none must become king. When anger rises, assign it a role. Don't suppress it. Direct it. When fear whispers, let it advise but never decide. The mind that rules emotions turns chaos into counsel. The 19th practice. Conscious withdrawal. Machiavelli taught rulers to retreat before striking. When overwhelmed, don't push harder, step back. Detach from people, plans, or digital noise for a short while. In stillness, your perspective resets. Withdrawal is not defeat. It's a tactical regrouping. Great minds recover power in silence. The 20th practice. Redefine victory. The modern world tells you victory means dominance, wealth, or attention. Machiavelli knew better. True victory is mental freedom. Waking up with peace, acting with clarity, sleeping without resentment. Every time you refuse to be provoked, you win. Every time you stay calm under manipulation, you conquer. Measure your victories in calm, not in noise. Now, remember this. Mastery over the mind is not achieved once. It is renewed daily. You must defend it like a kingdom surrounded by hungry invaders. Every distraction, every emotional reaction, every egoic trap is an attempted invasion. But the ruler who stays aware cannot be dethroned. And when you fail, because you will, do not despair. Failure is part of governance. Even kings misjudge their people. Even philosophers stumble in clarity. The key is to correct quickly. Admit when your mind has been ruled by impulse. Then reclaim your throne through silence and reflection. The power lies not in perfection, but in recovery. To live Machiavellian wisdom today means becoming both strategist and sage. A thinker who sees through illusion, and a soul who remains compassionate amidst corruption. It means protecting your peace with the same vigilance others guard their fortunes. Because once your mind is free, everything else follows. So, let this be your declaration tonight. I am not controlled by emotion, by fear, or by opinion. My mind is mine. Write it in the comments and repeat it in your heart whenever doubt arises. That repetition will become your armor. You now understand the art of ruling your mind not as a tyrant, but as a wise sovereign. Calm, observant, strategic, and free. The world will continue to manipulate, deceive, and provoke, but your awareness will remain the silent fortress that nothing can breach. And that, as Machiavelli would say, is the highest form of power. Not to rule others, but to be unconquered within. There is a kind of power that cannot be bought, inherited, or stolen. It is the power of a mind that no longer bends. Machiavelli understood this, perhaps more than any thinker of his time. He knew that kingdoms rise and fall, fortunes appear and vanish, reputations shine and decay. But the mind, the disciplined, lucid, sovereign mind, endures beyond every storm. It is the last kingdom no tyrant can enter. The final empire is within. Look around you. Most people live in invisible prisons. They obey expectations, they chase illusions, they let fear, opinion, and habit dictate their choices. They call this freedom because the chains are not visible. But Machiavelli would tell you, the most dangerous slavery is the one that feels comfortable. Because when your chains are made of gold, you forget they exist. The mind that worships comfort becomes a silent servant. But the mind that embraces clarity, even when it hurts, becomes free. Freedom is not rebellion against others. It is rebellion against your own weakness, against your need to please, your fear to act, your addiction to noise. It is a private revolution. Every time you choose silence over reaction, awareness over distraction, discipline over desire, you revolt against the invisible empire that rules most minds. That revolution doesn't make noise. It radiates calm authority. Machiavelli wrote that rulers must learn to be both lion and fox. The lion to command strength, the fox to see deception. These are not traits of cruelty. They are symbols of balance. You must be strong enough to defend your peace and wise enough to see through illusions. Be lion in spirit but fox in perception. That's how you navigate a world where everything, media, relationships, systems, competes for your submission. But here is the truth that most ignore. You cannot rule the world if you cannot rule your mind. You cannot lead others while being enslaved by emotion. You cannot find peace while feeding the very forces that disturb you. True leadership, true mastery, begins with the quiet governance of your own thoughts. Imagine your mind as a city at night. Thoughts are the citizens. Some chaotic, some peaceful. Doubt whispers in one alley. Confidence speaks from another. Your fears patrol the streets like guards who have forgotten their orders. Your desires build towers, then abandon them halfway. Most people live inside this city as confused wanderers. But the one who learns awareness walks through it as its ruler. He hears every noise, but none of it controls him. He knows every street, but walks only where he chooses. That is sovereignty. To live in your mind as its architect, not as its tenant. Machiavelli was misunderstood because he spoke the language of power to a world addicted to comfort. But if you read him with awareness, you discover that his message was not corruption. It was lucidity. He exposed the mechanics of influence so that you would never again be fooled by it. He showed that the first lie of power is moral pretense, that people hide their hunger for control behind masks of virtue. Once you understand this, you stop idealizing the world. You start seeing it as it is, complex, selfish, beautiful, and raw. And when you accept that truth without resentment, you gain peace, because you no longer expect purity from a world built on duality. So what, then, does it mean to ensure that nobody and nothing will ever rule your mind? It means this. It means to wake up each day aware that your first thought will try to rule you, and to choose awareness instead. It means to understand that every word you hear is an attempt at influence, and to choose discernment instead. It means to face your fears not as enemies but as teachers, and to choose courage instead. It means to live not for approval, but for alignment with truth. Machiavelli might have whispered this if he lived today. Do not hate the manipulator. Study him. Do not fear the deceiver. Outthink him. Do not fight the world. Master your mind within it. And when you do, something changes. The noise of life stops touching you in the same way. The opinions of others lose their weight. The fear of failure becomes almost amusing. You no longer chase validation or revenge. You begin to act from a place of calm clarity, where every decision feels deliberate, measured, precise. People will sense it without understanding it. They will call it mystery or aura or strength. But it is none of these. It is sovereignty. It is the silent magnetism of a mind that cannot be moved. To live this way is not arrogance, it is discipline. It is not coldness, it is peace. Because when nothing owns you, you can finally love without chains, create without fear, and live without disguise. The free mind does not dominate, it radiates. It becomes a quiet example that liberation is possible. But remember this, freedom must be guarded daily. The same way rulers defend their borders, you must defend your attention, your emotions, your beliefs. Every moment of distraction, every indulgence in self-pity, every craving for validation, these are invasions. You will feel them coming. You will hear the whispers of the crowd. Be like us. Feel what we feel. Think what we think. Smile at them, but never bow. There will be days when you fall back into old patterns. When the world seems louder than your awareness. Don't despair. The strength of the mind is not measured by perfection, but by recovery. Every time you return to your center, you reinforce your throne. Every moment of awareness is a victory against chaos. Before this video ends, take one final breath and repeat silently, "My mind belongs to me." Let that sentence echo in your body. Feel it as truth, not affirmation, because once your mind is truly yours, everything else, your peace, your purpose, your presence, aligns naturally. So walk back into the world with that quiet strength. Speak less, observe more. Trust no illusion, yet fear no truth. You will see manipulation, deceit, and fear all around you. But you will no longer be affected, because now you know the secret Machiavelli tried to reveal. The most powerful human is the one who cannot be ruled. If this message resonated with you, write in the comments, "I reclaim my inner throne." And remember, this channel exists to remind you of what the world wants you to forget. That true power was never about ruling others. It was about remembering that nobody and nothing will ever rule your mind. So stay sovereign, stay awake, stay free.